Hi, and welcome to Created Borderline. Let's talk about it. Today's Q&A is how does borderline personality disorder disrupt your life? Well, this is different for anybody. Everybody has experiences borderline personality disorder differently. So we have to keep that in mind, that just because it affects me this way, or this is how it affects me, does not mean it affects everybody in this way. The biggest thing to remember is I don't have the borderline rage. A lot of people suffer with the borderline rage, and I clinically diagnosed. I have not ever seen it, but the more I dive into the research and studying all of this, I believe that one of my brothers definitely has borderline personality disorder, and he experiences the borderline rage. To be honest with you, I think all my blood relatives have it. Now that I look back on it, I don't think that our brains knew how to function and bounce back from the trauma that we experienced, and in result, we got borderline personality disorder. So that is that. But anyway, so how borderline disrupts my life. Okay, so post-diagnosis or pre-diagnosis, I didn't know it was disrupting my life. I had no idea what borderline personality disorder was, and I didn't realize I was doing anything different than anybody else in the world. Man, I wish I wouldn't have had to wait 32 years to find out that I had this disorder. But looking back and having a new outlook and perspective on things with the information and knowledge I have now, I wore my heart completely and entirely on my sleeve. I devoted my life to whomever I was needing to or trying to please and love or nurture at the time, whether it be a boyfriend or a friend or whatever, and they oftentimes devalued me, and I didn't understand, and it's so hard. And I wish every borderline patient in the world was listening to me right now when I say these next few sentences. It is hard to understand how you can care so deeply and love someone so intensely and them not reciprocate and feel the same way back or in return. That is the hardest part about borderline personality disorder, because you don't know. And it is very, very confusing. Very, very, very confusing. And especially when pre-diagnosis, when you have no freaking clue what is going on, and you just think that you are the biggest piece of crap in the world, and you can't be loved, and no one will ever love you, and that is when things start coming into perspective. When you get the diagnosis, is you're like, okay, I know what you're saying to me. I understand that we love more intensely, and we love more deeply, and we love not like the majority could ever understand. Okay, that you're saying these things, but it takes a while to actually grasp onto the very meaning of it, I guess you could say, because you don't understand. Like it's hard to understand. It's just hard to understand. There's no other words other than it's hard to understand and hard to get. And part of us doesn't want to, because a part of us doesn't want to believe that we're never going to feel, nobody's ever going to feel about us the way we feel about them. And that's kind of a scary feeling. Alright, I'm at this here gas station, so I'll be back in a second. BPD is disruptive in my life. So I went on and on about how the never reciprocating or receiving the same love that you put out, you never will, unless obviously you fall in love with another borderline, but the likelihood of that is very slim. They say that there's a lot of people with borderline personality disorder out there, but in real life, a diagnosed person, I have not met one. Over the internet, yes, but as far as an actual like face-to-face meeting with somebody, I have yet to meet a borderline that has been officially diagnosed. Now, do I think that I have met borderlines that haven't been diagnosed? Yes, but that was pre-diagnosis. I haven't spoke to these people since my own diagnosis. So, with that being said, I'm gonna move on from that. Also, the fear of abandonment, failure, and rejection has probably been my worst, self-sabotaging behaviors. Because of those things have probably been my absolute worst. I shouldn't say absolute worst, I should say second. The second most disruptive behavior and thing the BPD has ever caused me or my life would be self-sabotage, self-destructive behaviors due to abandonment, rejection, failure. Those three beautiful little soul-crushing words I despise and loathe to the deepest centers of the crevices in this earth. Okay, so abandonment, that's a big deal for me, and I am still trying to work on the exact onset of when it became an issue. And since I do not talk to my family, it's really hard to kind of remember bits and pieces that are still that are fuzzy, but which I'm still working on. So I will correct this in the future if it is wrong. But I think this started in like when I was 3 or 4, and my older siblings raised us younger siblings pretty much, while my parents went out and drank and done what they did. They were into drugs and drinking, and I don't remember them taking care of me as that much as a nurturing parenting type way. I remember my siblings being there and my cousins raising me. I remember my step-siblings' mom more than I remember my own mom. So anyway, it could just be my mind playing tricks on me though, or it could be real. Then also my father abandoned me in a time that he should have grabbed his children and ran and said, fuck the consequences. That's just how I feel about it. I feel like my whole life could have been a lot different if he would have took us kids. As a matter of fact, my whole life would have been a lot better. Not that I think that he would ever have been a perfect parent. No, he wouldn't. But he would have learned, and by the end of it, he probably could have been a perfect parent. He once was my hero, and then he became the villain, and he quickly became the Freddy Krueger of my life, and I blamed him, and I still blame him for a lot of stuff, but I am trying to let that go because I realize I can't blame him for stuff that, for one, for stuff that he didn't do, and for two, he doesn't know that I am upset with him. He doesn't know the reasons why I'm upset with him, and I haven't given him a chance, really. So maybe one day if I did give him a chance, maybe he would want to sit down and have a conversation about what's wrong with me and all the things in my life. But that's likely never going to happen because that's setting myself up for rejection and once again abandonment. So I will not put myself in that position because I can't and do not want to feel or deal with those things at this moment in time in my life. And I would like to say maybe one day so I don't have regrets later on in life, but who knows. So anyway, those things: failure, rejection, and abandonment. Those are the really big culprits of my BPD. Confrontation. This is where this is where quiet differs from BPD, the anger outbursts. Confrontation scares me. I have to be pushed to the complete maximum, and that is any human being. Even the Pope pushed to its maximum is going to say something or have some kind of break or slit or little cut in their demeanor and usual self. It doesn't matter who you are. Once you're pushed to a point and you can't back down, there's no way out, you can't turn around, you can't walk away from a situation, you're going to find a way to release that. It just happens. And I don't go like half-cocked, like throwing punches at people. I have been in a fight before, yes, more than one. Not very many though. But I have been in a few fights, and they were stupid. Looking back at them now, it's retarded. But it's just, but your words. Everybody says hateful words out of anger. You should never talk out of anger. I was reading this article yesterday, and this is just a good example and I love it. But I was reading this article yesterday. This woman, she started dating a man, and she was very upfront with him in the very beginning. She said, "This is what I've got." She's like, "When I am angry, and if we get in an argument, I am angry, and I happen to say these words, don't believe him. I don't mean anything that I say, and if I walk away, just let me walk away," and so on and so forth. In the very beginning, though, he was unable to provide those things and give her that space that she needed, and it was very, it hurt him at first, but then he was like, she did warn me, she did tell me, I knew that this was what was going to happen, I knew this was the deal, and I needed to give her that respect, and so eventually it was able to work out, but that's just a prime example of being able to people with BPD being able to make a relationship work. That is the thing. Everybody wants to blame the BPD person. Nobody wants to take accountability for their actions and what they're doing. It is a two-way street, and both people have to put in the work. If you love that person, you're going to put in the work. If you don't, you're going to continue daily showing that person you're not putting in the work, and that's what angers them. That's what angers us. That's what upsets us. And don't get me wrong, I get angry, but I don't lash out like that because I know what that anger does. I've seen that anger, and I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to beat on somebody or hurt somebody. And I definitely, I did never, well, take that back, because one time I did. I have rarely intentionally hurt another human being on purpose, never intentionally. I've always intentionally self-sabotaged my life in one way or another, and the reflections of that ricocheted, and the bullets of my own self-sabotaging had ricocheted off of me and unintentionally hurt some of the people around me. I'm not even sure if they're hurt. I don't know if it's they're hurt or they just don't give a shit or care about me, myself. And either way, I'm still moving on. I'm sorry for my behaviors. I didn't have a grasp on what I was doing and how I was doing it and what the hell was going on inside my head. And now that I'm able to better understand myself and understand the majority and continue, because it's not like, oh, okay, I went to counseling for a day and read a few books, now I'm better. No, this is going to be the thing I have to continue for maybe the remainder of my life. And even if it's not something I have to, it might be something that I continue to, because I know that it's making me a better person. And if I can continue to learn, if anything, if I can continue to learn, then that's okay with me. So, confrontation. Okay, so back to confrontation. Confrontation. Okay. Cannot stand it. It makes me anxious. And this may be a little bit to do with why I get so upset when I think I'm being yelled at, even though it is probably constructive criticism, and I never knew that really. I always thought I wasn't good enough. I wasn't like at a job, or that's a good example of job. I would get yelled at, or not yelled at, I would get corrected or constructive criticism, and I would think that they were attacking me, they were, coming at me, tell me how horrible of a worker I am, and how horrible my job performance is, and I'm a worker. I was a worker. I could work easily 60 hours a week at one job, another 20 at another job, and still perform my duties, and most of the time my job performance was 110%. I would go through like this thing like every 3 months where I would just need to crash, and I would fight it because I knew I had to work or whatever. So then around those times, my job performance, especially if I was working 80 hours a week, would slack a little, and I won't deny that. And that's usually when I would get this, and I never looked at it like they were used to 110%, and when I'm given 80%, that's a big difference, and they know I can do 110%, so why am I giving this 80? I never looked at it like that, but also, like, I, like, kind of like the 5 love languages, I am like, I need to know that I'm appreciated, and I need to know that I'm not invisible, and I need to know that, I need a constant reminder that I am accepted, and I am, I don't, validation. I need validation for my own existence, and that is so sad, I know, and I still do. I 100%, that has not changed. Like, has not changed. I still need validation for my own existence, and I hope one day that that'll go away. More than anything else, that right there, like, I don't want somebody else to tell me, or I don't want to need someone to tell me it's okay that I'm alive. It's okay, or it's good that I'm alive, or I have meaning or purpose or value, because I can't find that within myself, and I still struggle with that. And it hurts to even admit that. It's gonna make me cry, but I struggle with that. It's really hard for me to talk about. It's really hard for me to accept it. But and it's worse now post-suicide attempt. By the way, don't try to kill yourself. Because let me tell you, statistics show that way more people survive suicide attempts than actually die from them. And guess what? Your life, you think your life is bad now. And I'm not saying it's this way for everybody. I'm going to tell you in my experience, and it could be your experience. I had zero support system when I woke up. Nobody asked me why. Nobody cared to admit to their faults. Nobody, it was like, who gives a fuck? Excuse my language, but that's how I felt. That's how I still feel. And it made my life worse. It made my life worse. And I spend a lot of time I spent almost 2 years of my life in a very, very, like, I thought I was in a dark place before. I was in an even darker place. And, like, I was the place that I was in was in my own pits of hell. I felt like a failure like, I had tried to commit suicide 6 times in my life. There was I was young for a few of them, and didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I don't think I really wanted to die. But the fact in the brain, what was going on in my head was, I failed at trying to die. I failed at trying to die in a world that didn't want me. And that's all I seen, heard, felt. There was nothing else. So I self-medicated with alcohol. And I drank, and I drank, and I drank. And by the time I quit drinking, I could drink a 5th of vodka to myself in a few hours. And it went from just drinking beer and just catching a buzz to drinking every day, all day. By the time I moved back to Illinois, in, I think it was February or March of last year, I couldn't even hardly get drunk anymore. And then when I did, I didn't go through the buzz period. I just went straight from sober to blackout. And I'd get up and do it again. I held a job. I worked overnights. But as soon as I got home, I started drinking. I slept for a couple hours, and then I'd go to work. It worked for me. Never required very much sleep. I hate working night shift, but that's a different story for a different time. So, it was okay. And I thought it was okay, and I kept telling myself, I'm an alcoholic, I'm everything I fucking, excuse my language, I didn't mean to say that again. I'm everything I ever hated. And truth be told, one day I woke up and I said, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. I started getting the help I need. I quit drinking on my own. I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholic is somebody that doesn't want to quit drinking, or wants to quit drinking and can't quit drinking. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. Like a drug addict. I was drinking to medicate myself, to make myself numb and feel less pain. And when you are comatose, you don't feel much of nothing. But that wasn't for me. And it wasn't like feeling better wasn't a quick fix. I just in the last few months have started my YouTube video on this random the day where I said out loud, I want to live, on accident. It just came out of my mouth. It wasn't planned. It wasn't scheduled. It wasn't anything like that. It just came out of my mouth, and there it was. And I had to stop talking because tears were swelling up my eyes. That's the first time in my entire life I'd ever said that or ever felt them. So it was a different experience for sure. And, you know, so it's been a slow progression. I've just got to that point. I just got to the point where I want to live. Just got to the point where I want to fight for a better life. And for, well, I don't want to say a better life. I want to fight for the life that I never got. The life that was taken from me. I want it to know, I want that life that I could have had or should have. Because it shouldn't be a could have had or should have had. I have the power and the ability to rise above it, and that's what I plan to do. So I'm going to have the life that I wanted when I was a little girl dreaming about my career and my job, except for things have changed and my career path is a little different, and you know, so on and so forth. But you get the gist, you get what I'm saying. So if anything, BPD has been a horrible it's made a mess of my life. BPD has made a horrible mess of my life, and it has caused confusion and chaos inside my brain, and has misfired the neurons inside there that have caused me to do some self-sabotaging behavior that I can never take back. But at the same time, BPD has been a blessing, a gift to me. And for some reasons I can't explain, but for some I can, I guess. It has opened my eyes to a whole world that I didn't know existed. It has shown me a kinder heart for people who suffer with any illness, but definitely the mental illness or the mental capacity that our brains can and cannot handle with pain. People with BPD oftentimes attempt suicide or commit suicide there's one main reason. And that reason also resonates with people who have physical pain. People with physical pain that they cannot control or get rid of are 3 times as likely to commit suicide as a normal person. Person with BPD, emotional internal pain, is why they tried it in their lives, or we tried it in our lives, or we do in our lives. And it is because it is so intense, and you can't even go to the doctor and ask for a shot of morphine because you can't numb your insides. You can't numb emotional pain with, I'm sure you feel go for a little bit, but it's gonna come right back. A broken bone will heal. And to be honest with you, I'd rather be beat every day of my life than to feel what I feel on the inside of my body. Most days, I don't want to say necessarily I feel better, but I got a hold of it. And that makes me feel better because I know what it is. Being self-aware gives you the power And that's my message to everybody out there with any kind of mental illness, BPD, anything that can have control. Listen, self-awareness is the power. No matter what anybody tells you, self-awareness is the power. You can control the whole thing if you are self-aware. If you are diagnosed with BPD, you tell yourself you have BPD. You learn about BPD. You study BPD. And it's comorbid diagnosis. You study it like it's nobody's business. Like tomorrow, you study it like you're going to school to learn about it. You study it like you ain't never studied nothing before. Like the SATs. Like the Constitution.